Hello and welcome to English Speaking Made Easy, your guide to good English. In the first section, we'll be doing grammar and we have the Grammar Express. In the Grammar Express, we are doing a follow-up on the adjectives which we've been discussing in the previous few episodes. So today I'm going to introduce certain other kinds of adjectives. The first one I have for you today is the interrogative adjective. Interrogative itself means asking questions. So, interrogative adjectives, they are adjectives which actually ask a question. These adjectives are always followed by a noun or a pronoun, and they are used when you want, and they are used to form questions. The three interrogative adjectives are which, what and whose. Which asks you to choose between two options. You have A and B, which gives you the option. You can choose between two options when you use the interrogative adjective which. What asks you to make a choice, a general choice. What do you enjoy? So, which dress would you like to choose? It's more specific. What is more general? What do you enjoy doing? So, which, what, and the third one is whose. This asks who something belongs to. Okay? So, whose car is this? Whose daughter are you? Like that. So, these three are called interrogative adjectives. Remember, only these three are adjectives. Do not confuse, there are other interrogative words, there are other words which we use to ask questions like who and how and all that. These are not adjectives because these words do not modify nouns. Like I said before, you cannot put a noun. We've always said these interrogative adjectives have to have a noun or a pronoun following it. But look at who and how. If you make it into a sentence, you can't have a noun following it. See, who did this? It's always a verb. You can't say who quote this is. It's wrong. You can never follow these with a noun, and which is one reason why they are not adjectives. You can't say who quote it is. You have to say whose quote is this. So, these words are not adjective, and that's something which you need to remember. The three adjectives or the three interrogative adjectives are just the words which, what and whose, not the others. Now, adjectives, if they are to be considered interrogative adjectives, they are immediately followed by a noun, and that is what is the greatest, that's the tip that you get to identify if they are adjectives. Now, the word which, we'll just use this in a sentence and see. Which color is your favorite? Okay. In this sentence, which color is your favorite, the word which serves the purpose of a adjective. It modifies the word colors. It comes just before the noun colors also. But I'll give you another sentence. Which is your favorite color? Remember, in a sentence like this, which does not play the role of an adjective. And how do you know that? You know it because it is not immediately followed by a noun. Like we said, adjective, because it modifies a noun, it is generally, these words will have to fit in very carefully before a noun. Now, here which is followed by an auxiliary verb and not by a noun. So, in this sentence, which is not an adjective. Which color do you like? Which dress do you prefer? In these sentences, these are all interrogative adjectives, uses of which as an interrogative adjective. Okay. Which song will you be playing on your wedding day? Now, I think you have a look at that word. Is that an interrogative adjective or not in that particular sentence? Yes, it is, because it is immediately followed by a noun, which is song. What pet do you want to get? Look at that. What immediately followed by a noun, which is pet. So, that's easy for you. Whose child is this? In all these sentences, these words are immediately followed by a noun. So, it's easy for us to understand that they are interrogative adjectives. Got that? Now, we will go on to indefinite adjective. This is quite simple. Indefinite adjectives are describe or they modify a noun very unspecifically. That means they provide very indefinite or unspecific information about the noun. So, the common indefinite adjectives are words like few, many, much, most, each, every, either, nobody, several, some. These are some examples of indefinite adjectives. And why are they indefinite? Because they don't give you a definite information. Give some candy to her. They are not telling you give a candy to her, give her one candy, give some candy to her. I want a few moments alone. It's very unspecific. Several writers wrote about the recent incidents. They aren't specifying, they are just generalizing. So, these are all very indefinite. So, these words, each student will have to submit their homework tomorrow. So, these cases, these words are all used as indefinite adjectives. Okay. Now, if you remember, like there are also words called articles. Now, articles, if you must have learnt in school, are an, a and the. Now, these three words are also adjectives. Okay. As adjectives, these articles determine the specification of nouns, okay, which means a and an are used to refer to unspecific nouns, and the is used to refer to a specific noun. For example, a cat is always afraid of water. Here the noun cat refers to any cat. It is not specific. The cat is afraid of water, which means the is specific. An electronic product should always be handled with care. Is it specific or unspecific? They don't mention anything in specific. They tell you every electronic project, also an electronic project should be handled with care. The thing is here that these articles also serve the purpose of adjectives. Okay. So, then final round here is the compound adjectives. Now, compound adjectives are again just two adjectives which go together and which are differentiated with a hyphen. Okay. When two words modify nouns, when compound nouns are combined, words modify other nouns, they become a compound adjective. Now, this type of adjective usually combines two or more words and they become one unit, okay, and they are generally separated either with a hyphen or they are joined together by a. So, let us see, they can either be joined together by a quotation mark. For example, you can have something like this: I have a broken down sofa. Broken down, you see a hyphenation, that is a compound adjective. I saw a 6 foot long snake. 6 foot long, three adjectives combined together with a hyphen, that becomes a compound adjective. Okay. So, these are words when you have multiple adjectives combining together, we sometimes hyphenate them and they become a compound adjective. So, just let us do a rewind of what we have covered right now. We started with a interrogative adjective which serves the purpose of asking questions. We continued with an indefinite adjective. We also saw how articles can serve the purpose of adjectives when they refer to specific and non-specific things, and then I quickly wrapped it up with a compound adjective. Okay. These are just things that you just need to gloss over and just know, because sometimes when you try to, when you are doing something with grammar, unless you know what these parts of speech are and their role in a sentence, you may not be able to make sense of how to improve your writing and speaking. Okay. So, with this I have finished off the different types of adjectives for you, and I suppose if you remember from the previous few episodes, we have been giving you the adjectives in small chunks, helping you glide through all the adjectives. This is just for your reference, so that next time you see this, you will know where this falls in a sentence, and it will definitely help you to write correct sentences too. Okay. Now, we are going on to our next section, which is Lexica, your guide to good vocabulary. In today's section, we are going to be dealing with words related to tourism and travel. Okay. Now, most people tend to kind of do not see the distinction between two words, that is, what is tourism, what is travel. You cannot use one as a synonym for the other. One does not replace the other, which means tourism is an industry. It is the industry which handles tourism, whereas travel is the actual act of going from one place to another. Okay. India promotes tourism. That is an industry, but I travel from one place to another, or I travel from one place to another looking for work. So, both these are very, very different. Tourism is a noun, travel is a verb. So, do not mix them up together. The next word is quite interesting. It is a word, it is kind of difficult to pronounce because it has got two R's coming in there. Itinerary. Itinerary. It means whenever you are going somewhere, this is what you will have. It is a planned route of the journey. It is a planned, what do you call, you decide where you want to go, what you want to do. So, all that is planned before. If you are going through a travel agent, you are going abroad to a travel agent, they will already have a fixed itinerary. It is a planned route or a planned event of which places you will visit along the journey. So, like for example, you can say his itinerary included an official visit to Canada, which means among all the things that he had planned, this was also on the list, that is visiting Canada too. Okay. So, this is like a travel document which records a journey, tells you where you want to go, everything is planned before, and that is a very important word. Please remember the word itinerary, very, very important. So, it is a planned document as I mentioned. Okay. So, whenever you want to speak about something, because some people like to travel without a fixed itinerary. Some people always like to have one. So, that is the difference there. The only problem is that word can be a little slightly tricky to pronounce. Okay. So, now we will go on to the next word. The next word is just the opposite of having an itinerary. It is something like a backpacker. Backpacking. Of course, I suppose you understand what a backpack is. A backpack is a kind of bag people use. They put it over their shoulders. And when you put that into a backpacking experience, or like when you refer it from a travel point of view, backpacking means a low cost independent travel. It includes when you are traveling backpacking, you do not have a bus that the travel agent organizes for you. You would be going to a place and you would be using the public transport. Okay. You would perhaps be staying in very inexpensive places like youth hostels or homestays, and you will, the aim of a backpacker will definitely be to experience the place, not just go to certain landmarks and come back. He will want to experience the place, and he might stay on for much longer than a normal tourist. So, it is nice to know this word because backpacking is becoming very, very common. Earlier conventional vacations are different. Here backpacking is a little more impulsive. They do not follow any fixed itinerary. They go as their mind pleases. It takes a longer time. Today I have seen that most youngsters prefer backpacking over going as part of an organized tour. So, that word should be remembered by you. It is a very, very useful word. Okay. The next word is budget hotels. Budget hotels definitely refer only to hotels which are low cost. That is the only thing, nothing very fancy. Budget hotels means hotels which are lower in terms of cost. Now, this next word I am going to tell you, you may have seen this word because you see it very often coming up as a pop-up in your Facebook page and all that. It is called Airbnb. And if you might have seen this and you might have wondered exactly what is this, you see a lot of this coming up on social media, and this is one reason why I took out this particular thing. Airbnb is actually a privately run global company based in San Francisco. You know what they do? They are like brokers. They have these online, it's like an online marketplace. And what they do is they have connections with certain homestays and people who open up their homes for tourists, which means they do not own that property. Online on their app, you can book a house or a homestay or even an apartment which might belong to someone else, and you can share that space. So, it is a cheaper, much more easier way of traveling. So, this is and this is made accessible primarily to their websites and apps and their mobile applications. And this thing is so what my members can use the service if they want to arrange or offer lodging. You can even put your house up on Airbnb and have people come over and stay. The commission goes with that primary place. I mean, the Airbnb takes a commission from that. They don't own it, they take a commission out of the guests who come to your place. So, this you will see this and you should not, don't be surprised, this is what it really means. Okay, so that was another word. It is not a word exactly, this is something which is one kind of a trend which is very, very popular when it comes to tours and travels. The next word for every traveler would be, when you go to a place, there would be something that you would buy as a keepsakes, something which reminds you of that person, a place or that event. This is called a souvenir. It is called a souvenir. Look at the spelling and see how I am pronouncing the word. It is souvenir, souvenir. And a souvenir would be like if you were going to visit the Eiffel Tower in Paris, what you would do is you would buy a miniature, a miniature of the Eiffel Tower and place it in your living room. That is proof that you have gone there. It is kind of a reminder of that place that you went. So, it is called, the word is souvenir. And souvenirs also, often travelers who go back buy small souvenirs for their family and all that. So, that is called a souvenir. The next word that we have is the word called an adrenaline rush. Now, you may be wondering why I am actually giving you this word in the context of travel. But this word is important. You know why I put this word? Because now there is this conventional forms of traveling have now given way to a lot of adventure tourism. People love the adventure associated with travel. So, what actually happens because of that is, when we use this expression, youngsters love the adrenaline rush that comes in when they go bungee jumping, canoeing, deep sea diving and all that. And what is it? This is like, adrenaline is something which occurs, it is produced by the adrenaline glands, and when you face a threat, when you face stress, when you face a dangerous situation, it triggers certain processes in your body. For example, this is what makes your body, it sends extra oxygen to your lungs, and that is what makes a person to run away from that situation. But in this particular context, what I mean to use, why I am using this word is like this: it's anything, an activity which can trigger an adrenaline rush. So, I am telling you this primarily in the context of travel, where you feel that adventure tourists or youngsters these days love adventure because it gives them this adrenaline rush. That is the context in which it is used. That is the biological thing, but it is also used in this context. So, it helps when you want to speak about tourism. Okay, so when you want to speak about tourism and why do you like going deep sea diving? Why do you love bungee jumping? Oh, it gives me an adrenaline rush. Okay, and it does not have to be when a person is actually feeling a real threat. It could be sometimes people like putting themselves in such situations so they can experience this rush. Okay, so you got that. So, adrenaline rush. Now, the other words, related words, are sightseeing. When you go to a place, you go sightseeing. It's called going sightseeing. And a new trend in travel or in when you go to visit a place is, many people now don't prefer going to resorts or hotels. They love staying in homestays. Homestays are much more smaller setting, where there might be very few rooms, and you will have your owner, the owner of the homestay will cook nice homely meals for you. They might sometimes charter or make arrangements for you to visit around the place, and it is a smaller, more intimate place compared to a hotel, and it's much more personal connect, because you're staying with a family, sharing the kind of food they would eat. So, many people nowadays prefer a homestay over hotels or resorts. Okay. Another trend in tourism is what we call ecotourism. Ecotourism is when you promote tourism with an aim of preserving nature too. So, when you go to an ecotourism site, you will realize that you cannot perhaps take anything that is plastic with you. You cannot litter the place and come. You need to be respectful of nature, of that particular landscape when you go there. So, it is called ecotourism, sustainable tourism, with the aim being to also bring in protection, conservation of that particular site. Okay. So, these were all different words related to travel and tourism. Okay. So, I hope you found those words useful. Now, we are going over to the third section that we have, which is Say It Right, and Say It Right is your guide to good pronunciation. So, today in pronunciation, I am introducing you to something very simple. It is more than pronunciation, it is about two things that you need to understand. One is called a homonym and the other is called a homophone. Okay. So, I am just going to tell you the distinction between that so that it does not create a confusion for you. So, homonyms are words which have similar spelling and similar pronunciation also, but the meaning is different. And I am sure you might have stumbled upon words like this: similar spelling, similar pronunciation, but different meanings. Now, this usually happens as a result of two words which could have origins from different languages. Okay. Now, this is called a homonym. We will come to examples for that. First, let me explain what a homophone is to you. A homophone or homophones are words which are pronounced similarly, meaning differs, and the words may be spelt the same. Okay. Some example of words like this, words like let us say the word ROSE. It is pronounced the same. There are two meanings for this. ROSE can have two meanings. One is the past tense of the word rise. The sun rose early today. The past tense of the word rise. But rose also has another meaning, which is it is also a flower. But you look at this, it is two words which have similar spelling, similar pronunciation, but the meaning is different. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is all homonyms are homophones because they all sound the same. However, all homophones are not homonyms. That is the confusion there. Now, but we'll let you know that, you will understand that when we kind of give it through examples a little bit. Okay. For example, let us look at some examples of homophones that will perhaps explain that little clearer to you. Now, look at these words SEA and SEE. Pronounce them, both have the same pronunciation. Meanings are different, spellings are different, but pronunciation is the same. It is C. Now, THEIR and THERE, homophones, pronunciation is the same. There, spelling is different, meaning is different. WOOD and WOULD, both are pronounced wood. But you see, only the spelling is different, both the pronunciation, spelling is different, meaning is different, but the pronunciation is the same. They are called homophones. Herd, HERD, HEARD, another example. It is the same thing, the sound is the same and they are also homophones. Now, let us look at homonyms. Homonyms can also be similar. You can have a word ADDRESS. Now, here it is address. This word has two meanings. The spelling is the same, no difference in the spelling. The spelling is the same, but it can have two meanings. Address can also be to speak. He addressed the crowd. He addressed the crowd. That could be to speak. It could also mean a location, where you are from, what your address is. And another word, band. There are two meanings for the word band with the same spelling and the same pronunciation. Band could either mean a group of musicians, a musical group can be a band. A band could also be a ring that you could wear. It could be a string kind of a thing. You could wear a band around your arm, you could wear a hair band. That's a different meaning altogether. And the word bark, BARK, it's a homonym because it's got two meanings, same word, same spelling. Bark can be a dog barking. It can also be the bark of a tree, with a tree in the outer layer, that is also called the bark of a tree, but it has two different meanings. The word bat, BAT, bat is something you use to hit a ball. You have a ball and a bat, But bat can also be a nocturnal flying animal. We also use it to Ratriyaka Parkana, animal is also called a bat. So, like this, if you see, there are many words which can have two different meanings, but the same spelling and the same pronunciation. So, that is a distinction between what you call a homonym and a homophone. So, it is just good to know the distinction between that, because you will see them in different contexts and you can't just say that does not have the same, it might not just have one meaning, it could have multiple meanings. Now, we will move on to the last section of today's episode, which is let's talk. In let's talk, we are going to have a conversation, and this conversation is going to be related to the vocabulary that we covered, which was on travel. Okay, so we are having two friends speaking about travel. The friends are Lucy and Andrew. So, Lucy sees Andrew and then she asks him, perhaps he's been on a holiday, and then she meets him after some time, and Lucy asks Andrew, so where did you go on holiday? Where did you go on holiday? I want to pause on that particular sentence, because one error which I have noticed when we take classes in speaking is that word holiday. Most people tend to believe is holiday, because in Malayalam we say it like holiday means oivulla divasam, but holiday in English can have two meanings. It can mean a holiday, that is ഒരു ഒഴിവുള്ള ദിവസം, അന്ന് മുടക്കാണ് സ്കൂളിൽ പോകണ്ട അങ്ങനെ, that could be a holiday, but holiday could also mean a trip. You've gone on a holiday to Switzerland. It could be a trip that you've made to some place too. So, in this particular sentence, when you say where did you go on holiday, it does not mean കഴിഞ്ഞ ഒഴിവുള്ള ദിവസം നീ എവിടേക്ക് പോയി എന്നല്ല. Where did you go on your, perhaps people go on annual holidays, last vacation നീ എവിടെ പോയി, that is the meaning of the word holiday here. Where did you go on holiday? Lucy asks Andrew, and Andrew says, I went to Beijing with my parents. And Lucy's next question is, so how was it? Did you have a good time? How was it? Or how did it go? Did you have a good time? And Andrew says, it was wonderful. Beijing is a great city with many historical landmarks. And Lucy asks him, look at the word, historical landmarks. And Lucy asks him, so what did you see there? So he says, we saw the Great Wall of China, and we saw many other interesting places like old palaces, as we even saw, as well as pandas. They were really interesting. And Lucy says, I have been to Beijing once to attend a conference, but I didn't have time to travel around. And Andrew says, too bad, you could have stayed longer. It's not difficult to find cheap hotels in Beijing. It means that you should have stayed back. It's not very difficult to find cheap hotels in Beijing. And Lucy says, really? So, where did you stay anyway? And Andrew responds, we stayed at the Orange Hotel near the Palace Museum. And Lucy asks him, so was it good? Oh yes, it was a great budget hotel. And the rooms were clean, and we were offered free drinks, fruits and snacks every day. So, how about your holiday? Now, he's asking Lucy about her holiday, and Lucy says, oh, I didn't go out because I took a charity job as a volunteer tutor. And Andrew says, oh, that's good. I may want to try that out on my next holiday. I may want to try that out on my next holiday. With that, the conversation ends. So, you've seen how they slowly built the conversation. One person asking the other, so how was it? Oh, it was wonderful. We had a great time. There were a lot of historical landmarks. And then Lucy also saying about how she would have loved to visit or loved to go around Beijing too. So, that is how a natural progress of a conversation goes. It was between two friends and both were related to travel. Okay. So, on this note, we come to an end of today's episode. We hope to see you again next time with another fresh episode. Thank you and bye until then.